The FBI is on the case of a missing Texas man they say bragged about stealing thousands of dollars from a Mexican cartel and then disappeared just 2 hours later.
Erik Tadeo Ramirez must have been a very tough guy, as someone who could muster the courage to steal $50,000 from one of the most notorious Mexican drug cartels. But then, there's a very thin line between toughness and stupidity. Erik was obviously not aware of this line when he felt so confident and proud that he even bragged about his loot to an unknown woman on the phone.
The preferred method of killing involves beating with chainsaws. Other victims are dipped in vats of acid.
On March 24, 2023, less than 24 hours after he bragged about stealing from the cartel, Erik would pay for this unforgivable sin he had committed. Gang members of Cartel Del Noreste crossed the border into the U.S. in a blue 4-door Dodge Ram pickup truck. They bundled Erik into the truck and whisked him away to their headquarters at Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. Now the question is, why did Erik think it was a good idea to steal from one of the most dangerous cartels in the world? What fate awaits him in their hands? And who is Cartel Del Noreste? Let's find out. To understand the gravity of sin Erik committed, we need to understand the people he messed with, the Cartel Del Noreste. And to understand who these people are, we need to go back in time and look at their origins. The Cartel Del Noreste, also known as the Northeastern Cartel, Cartel of the Northeast, or CDN for short, is not a new player in the Mexican drug war. It's actually a splinter faction of one of the most infamous and brutal criminal groups ever, the Los Zetas. Los Zetas were formed in the late 1990s by a group of elite soldiers from the Mexican army who defected and joined forces with the Gulf Cartel, one of the oldest and most powerful narco-trafficking organizations in Mexico. The Zetas acted as sicarios, or hitmen, for the Gulf Cartel. They carried out assassinations, kidnappings, extortions, and other violent acts on their behalf. They soon gained a reputation for being ruthless, efficient, and merciless. During their reign, the Zetas were responsible for the brutal murder of about 200 immigrants and the casino fire that engulfed about 50 people.
There was the summary beheading of 200 migrants, the casino fire which killed at least 50. The preferred method of killing involves beheading with chainsaws. Much of this was filmed by the Zetas, a kind of show and tell of horrors.
They also expanded their activities beyond narco-trafficking as they ventured into human smuggling, oil theft, money laundering, and other illicit businesses. However, in 2010, a rift ensued between the Zetas and the Gulf Cartel over the control of lucrative smuggling routes and territories. The Zetas broke away from their former allies and declared war on them. This sparked a bloody conflict that engulfed several states in northern Mexico, especially Tamaulipas, Nuevo León, and Coahuila. The Zetas also clashed with other rival cartels, such as the Sinaloa Cartel, the Beltran-Leyva Cartel, and the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The violence reached unprecedented levels as massacres, beatings, car bombings, and other atrocities became common occurrences. The Zetas were led by a succession of notorious leaders, who were all known by their aliases that started with the letter Z. The first one was Arturo Guzman de Quena, alias Z1, who was killed by the Mexican military in 2002. He was followed by Rogelio Gonzalez Pizania, alias Z2, who was arrested in 2004. Then came the gentleman in a suit, Heriberto Lazcano, alias Z3, or El Lazca, who was considered the most powerful and feared leader of the Zetas. He was killed by the Mexican Navy in 2012, but his body was stolen by his loyalists from a funeral home. After him came Miguel Angel Trevino Morales, alias Z40, or El Cuarenta.
Now, he was said to burn his enemies alive or even disembowel them. Now, the man who led one of Mexico's most notorious drugs gangs has been captured, a major victory in the drugs war.
Miguel was captured by the Mexican Marines in 2013.
Miguel Angel Trevino, who headed the much-feared Los Zetas cartel, was seized near the Texas border. His car was packed with weapons and $2 million in cash.
And finally, there was Omar Trevino Morales, alias Z42, or El 42, who was arrested by the Mexican Federal Police in 2015. With each capture or killing of a Zetas leader, the organization became more fragmented and unstable. Several factions emerged within the group, each with its own leader and agenda. One of these factions was the Cartel Del Noreste, or the Northeast Cartel. The CDN was founded by Juan Gerardo Trevino Chavez, alias El Huevo, or El Trevino, He is the nephew of both Miguel Ángel and Omar Trevino Morales. He decided to form his own cartel after his uncles were arrested and he felt betrayed by other Zetas members. He recruited some of his relatives and loyalists, among whom is his brother, Jose Francisco Trevino Chavez, alias Kiko Comandante, or Kiko Trevino, who took over the leadership of the cartel after his brother was captured by the Mexican authorities in 2016. However, he too was captured and convicted in 2018.
The leader of a Mexican drug cartel sentenced to life in federal prison today here in Waco.
As of the time of the making of this video, it's unclear who the current leader of the Cartel Del Noreste is, but the last known leader of the cartel is Jose Francisco Trevino Chavez, who was in charge until March 2022, when he was arrested by the U.S. authorities in San Diego, California. He was indicted on 11 counts related to illegal substance trafficking, terrorism, and money laundering. He is currently facing trial in San Antonio, Texas. The CDN claimed to be the true heirs of Los Zetas and vowed to continue their legacy of terror and violence. They adopted the same tactics and symbols of their predecessors, such as using ski masks with the letters CDN on them, displaying banners with threatening messages to their enemies or authorities, and leaving behind mutilated bodies with signs of torture as a warning to others. They also maintained some of the same alliances and rivalries as Los Zetas, such as working with the Gulf Cartel against the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Primarily, their focus is on controlling the border city of Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas. This city is considered a strategic point for illegal substance trafficking because it's connected to Laredo, Texas. From there, drugs can easily be smuggled into the U.S. market. The CDN also expanded its influence to other states in northern Mexico, such as Nuevo León, Coahuila, Zacatecas, Morelos, San Luis Potosí, Veracruz, Tabasco, and even parts of the U.S. The Cartel del Noreste is not only a controlled substance trafficking organization, but also a killing machine. The CDN has been involved in some of the most horrific and gruesome crimes and violence in Mexico and beyond. Most of their violence is carried out by an armed wing of the cartel known as the Tropa del Infierno, which means Hell's Troop in English. They are the cartel's sicarios and hitmen who have access to the best weapons like the AR-15, AK-47, FN-57, and others. In 2010, the CDN was involved in the massacre of 72 migrants in San Fernando, Tamaulipas. The victims were mostly from Central and South America who were trying to reach the U.S. border in search of a better life. They were intercepted by a group of armed men who identified themselves as Zetas, the former parent organization of CDN. The gunmen took the migrants to a ranch, where they took everything they had from them and tried to force them to join their ranks. When most of the migrants refused, they were brutalized and their lives taken. Only one survivor managed to escape and alert the authorities. When the Mexican Marines arrived at the scene, they found 58 men and 14 women lying dead in a pile with marks and injuries. They also found a banner with a message from the Zetas, claiming responsibility for the massacre and warning others not to mess with them. The CDN was also involved in the prison break of 151 inmates in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas in 2011. The inmates were mostly members or associates of the Zetas or the CDN who were serving sentences for various crimes such as drug trafficking, murder, kidnapping, and robbery. They were freed by a group of gunmen who stormed the prison with assault rifles and grenades. They overpowered the guards who were either killed or bribed to open the cells for their comrades. They also set fire to several vehicles and buildings inside the prison compound, creating chaos and confusion. This cartel was responsible for the attack on the town hall of Villa Union, Coahuila in 2019. The attack was part of a larger campaign by the CDN to expand its territory and challenge the authority of the state government, which had been cracking down on its activities. The CDN sent a convoy of about 20 trucks and SUVs with armed men wearing ski masks and bulletproof vests to Villa Union, a small town near the border with Texas. They opened fire on the town hall building where several local officials and civilians were working or visiting. The attack lasted for several hours until the Mexican security forces arrived and engaged in a fierce gun battle with the attackers. The clash resulted in 22 deaths, 4 police officers, 2 civilians, and 16 cartel members. These are only a few of the types of violence and hell this cartel is ready to unleash on anyone who dares to mess with them. You don't even need to mess with them because they have killed more innocent people than anything. They kill, kidnap, extort, and terrorize anyone who stands in their way or crosses their path. So you see, these are not the kind of people you should be messing with. But for some reason, Erik obviously didn't get that memo. It was evening time on March 23, 2023, when 35-year-old Texas man Erik Tadeo Ramirez attended a house party in Laredo, Texas. He was at the party with his friends, drinking and having fun. But moments later, he was heard on the phone with an unknown woman, bragging about how he had stolen $50,000 from Cartel Del Noreste. Erik committed two unforgivable sins that night. First, he stole from a cartel, and secondly, he had the audacity to brag about his heist to a woman who was suspected to be a member of the same cartel he had stolen from. How stupid can a person really be? How did Erik manage to make it this far in life with zero brain cells? I mean, even someone with sawdust in the skull in place of a brain wouldn't dare mess with any Mexican drug cartels, least of all, the Cartel Del Noreste, an offshoot of the notorious Los Zetas cartel that operates in Mexico's northeastern state of Tamaulipas. That was the cartel Erik chose to mess with, and he didn't just rob them of a couple of $100s, but a whopping $50,000, which, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, is the median income for the average American. Cartels like these have booked their own men and placed their remains on bridges over less. But you need to know that this was not entirely about money, because surely there was more where that came from. This is a cartel that turns over hundreds of thousands of dollars every passing minute from their illegal narco trade, so the $50,000 Erik stole could have gone unnoticed if he had just kept his mouth shut. But he not only ran his mouth and boasted about ripping off the cartel, but he also gave out his exact location to the woman on the phone and said he wasn't afraid of them. His confidence came from the fact that he was on U.S. soil, and he assumed that his American citizenship was enough to protect him from the wrath of Cartel Del Noreste. It wasn't until the next couple of hours that the gravity of sin he had committed dawned on him. The night of March 24, 2023 was supposed to be a normal night for Erik Tadeo Ramirez. He was at his house in Laredo, Texas. Laredo is a border town that lies across the Rio Grande from Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. It's a hotspot for illegal substance trafficking and smuggling, as well as violence and corruption. Around 12:45 a.m., 3 of the Cartel Del Noreste sicarios, armed with automatic weapons, wearing tactical masks, arrived at Erik's residence in a blue Dodge pickup truck. They stormed the house and grabbed Erik by force. They didn't care about his girlfriend or sister who were screaming and begging them to stop. They didn't care about the neighbors who were awakened by the commotion and called the police. They only cared about their mission: to take Ramirez to Mexico and make him pay for his arrogance. They drove to the port of entry and crossed the border into Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. These guys had no trouble passing through the checkpoint, as they had bribed some of the officials and threatened others. They knew the area well, as they had been operating there for years. They knew how to avoid detection and escape justice. But Erik was not ready to give up without a fight. As they approached the Juarez-Lincoln International Bridge in Texas, he saw a chance to escape because he had seen the police patrol vehicle around the bridge. That was a glimmer of hope, he must have thought. Moments later, unreleased CCTV footage captured him as he opened the front passenger door and tried to jump off the truck with the hope that someone would see him and come to his rescue. But he was wrong. Very wrong. The sicarios immediately pulled him back into the truck by force and drove on, while the police patrol team he had seen on the bridge did nothing. That was the moment he realized he was doomed. You can imagine what would have been going on in his mind at that time, because he knew what those guys had done to people like him and what they were capable of doing to him. So when people like Erik do something as stupid as stealing from a cartel and bragging about it, the only thing you can do for them is to jump on your computer, draft your heartfelt condolence message, and send it across to them in advance. But in good faith, Erik's girlfriend and sister reported the kidnapping to the authorities on March 24th. They gave them the details of the incident, including the description of the truck and the license plate number. Following their report, the FBI filed a criminal complaint and charged Jonathan Cabriales, an alleged member of the cartel, with kidnapping. Cabriales was arrested on March 27th by the United States immigration officers at the same port of entry while driving the same pickup truck used for the kidnapping. Cabriales admitted that he was aware that Ramirez had stolen money from the cartel. He said that he was part of a group of kidnappers who were hired by the cartel to retrieve the money and punish Erik. According to him, they took Erik to a safe house in Nuevo Laredo, and that was the last he had seen or heard anything about him. Meanwhile, the other sicarios who came on that operation are still on the run, and nothing has been heard about Erik or his whereabouts since the day of his abduction. What do you think happened to him? Do you think he's still alive? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe.